We asked 100 people, what's the worst part of painting miniatures? And our survey said, eyeballs. We hate eyeballs. Eyeballs are awful. If your eyeballs are awful, you can't paint eyeballs. Or can you? Welcome to the Nerd Theorists. So we've all been there. You've got a wicked model, you really want to paint a head rather than a helmet, the rest of the model looks amazing, and then you end up with... It happens to everyone. So, this is supposed to be a really basic, I've been doing this for years, and this is how you can do it, even if you're not particularly skilled. My hands aren't particularly steady, my eyes don't work particularly well, I'm knackered, I'm not very well today, I haven't even combed my hair. The kids have been sent home from school because of flooding. So this is, you know, this is, I am absolutely cack. This is worst case scenario. Let's try and paint some eyes. So, you will need a brush, obviously. Now, the smaller the better, but you want a good tip, you want a good point. I am using a liner brush, which is longer. The head is longer than a spot brush. I just find it's easier to use. You will want some paint, obviously. Now, first of all, you want to prime your head in white and paint the head separately. When you buy a box of Space Marines, they come with loads of different heads. You do have enough helmeted heads to do the whole box in helmets. So you'll probably find that you've got a lot of spare human heads that you don't need. So practice on them, because there will come a time when you will have a leader unit that won't have a helmet, or you want to paint a head and you're not very good at it. If you do want to paint a head, paint these heads individually, store them away, and then you have heads with working eyes. Well, not working, but you know what I mean. So, stick your head on a matchstick, paint it separately. If you prime the rest of your model in black, that's fine. People like to do that for the dark recesses, but prime your head in white. This means you don't have to paint the eyeballs white because they're already white. Even if you water down white, there's not a lot of pigment in it, so you're going to have to do lots and lots of layers, and it will build up, and then you'll fill the recesses and it'll be so much harder to paint. So prime your model in white, as bright a white as you possibly can. Then you'll want your standard black, a Baden black, that one, a base. You will want a flesh colour. I am using high density pigment MSP Bones Scholar Flesh. And then you will want Reichland Flesh Shade or Gilliman Flesh Shade or some sort of wash or ink. Now, if you want to splash out and your eyesight is as bad as mine, these are £8. They come with numerous different interchangeable lenses and a little LED light on the top, which is very handy. You will also want a matte varnish, a good one. This is Colourforge matte varnish, because nobody wants a shiny face. Right, let's get it on. Okay, to start with, we are not painting an iris. It's pointless if you're not very steady-handed. There is no point trying to paint a coloured circle and then a black dot in the middle of it. It is virtually impossible unless you are ridiculously professional, or you have an army of trained painter ants that can get in there and do it for you. So, black paint, and paint a line. Now, the mistake a lot of people make is they try and put the dot smack bang in the middle of the eye. Your pupil is not smack bang in the middle of the eye. If you're looking straight ahead, you will notice that the majority of your eye is hidden by your top eyelid. If you paint smack bang in the middle of the eye, you're going to have a really wide-eyed, buttered sausage. You don't want that. You don't want a surprise-looking Space Marine. So, black on your brush, rub most of it off so you've just got it on the tip, not a daub of paint, just on the tip, and then paint a line from there up. Okay, don't do a dot, do a line. One, if you do a dot, it will dry really quickly on the brush because there's hardly any paint on it, and you'll have to be jabbing, and then the brush will curl around and you'll end up with a weird shape. So line up, because all of this is going to get painted over afterwards. Once you've done the side that your dominant hand is on, your right hand, turn it the other way up. So you're not leaning across the model, you're painting on the dominant side always. Also, as you can see, I've got some coasters that I'm resting my arm on, so I've got a nice steady hand while I'm doing it. Always pays to rest your arm on something raised up. I'm trying to do this with a camera right in front of my face. You won't be doing that, but a steady hand is key, and if it means leaning on something, all the better. Once you've got your two black lines, and you'll already see that they should be relatively central, you're then going to paint over the rest of the head in your flesh colour. Now, as you see, as soon as I start doing it, I bugger up, I go over one of the pupils, so I quickly turn the camera off and just dotted. You can still see where the pupil was, but I just went back over it again. You want to paint all the way around the underside of the eye, the upper side of the eye. You will notice there's raised eyebrow ridges on this model. We're going to come back to those, but you basically are just colouring over the black line that you've painted up, so only the bits in the centre of the eye are still showing. And again, flip the model over so you're only painting on your dominant side. Next, a brown, a black, a blonde, whatever colour you want your eyebrows, and paint your eyebrows. Now, I've gone quite thick with this. You can paint little stripes, but the whole point is the eyebrows are going to be above the eye. You're going to be looking down on the model, so the eyebrow covers any cock-ups that you've done. So make sure you paint your eyebrows on. Make it nice and thick if you want. If you want to point them down to give it a mean stare, you don't want them arched that way because it will make them look like gormless and scared. You want them to point down, if anything. And then you want your wash or your shade or your ink. I'm using Right Flesh Shade. Start off quite light. You can always build it up. Also, as long as you work quickly, have some tissue next to you, dab the brush on the tissue to dry it out, and then dab the dry brush back on the bits that are too heavy, and it will draw some of that ink off to soak it up. You want it under the eyes, around the nose. You can see where I put too much paint on the nose and it built up a little bit too much. I've inadvertently given my Space Marine a broken nose, which looks quite cool. You know, happy accidents, as Bob Ross used to say. Now, you're probably going to want 2 coats of Flesh Shade. I've gone a little bit overboard here and it's a little bit too thick. I should have watered it down, but you know, learn from my mistakes. Once it's fully dry, give it a good coating with a really good matte varnish. Now, I said before, I'm using this. I don't particularly like the Citadel hard coat. I don't think it's matte enough. This gives it a really nice finish. It's cheaper and you get more in a tin. This has lasted me for ages. It was only a tenner, so it's Colour Forge matte varnish. But make sure you give it a really, really good shake because it comes out quite grey and grainy if you don't shake it properly. But you end up with a lovely finish, no shine on the face, and hopefully a relatively decent pair of eyeballs. So there we go. Obviously not perfect, but the whole point of this video is for people that are really struggling and are just getting frustrated with their boss-eyed, wide-eyed, lopsided eyeballs. This should give you central and matched eyes. If you really are struggling, and I remember in the early days I'd paint one eye perfectly, and again it's the mistake of not painting it upside down, but you bugger the other one up and you get so annoyed because you had one good eye and one bad eye. Paint it white. Just go over it with a grey white and they're blind in one eye. Or paint it red like they've got a robot eye. It's your model, you do what you want. But hopefully this has been helpful. Feel free to comment if there's anything else that you'd like to know, or if it worked for you. Post a photo, stick it on our Instagram. We've got socials coming out of the wazoo. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed it. Love you long time. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I don't want to go back to work. See you soon.